Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. My name is Kara, and I'm a holistic health practitioner for both people and pets. After working for years in the conventional medicine field, I realized that while our lifespans may be getting longer, our health spans are rapidly shrinking. And when it comes to our pets, both their length and quality of life are decreasing. When I turned to functional medicine and a more holistic approach to health, I saw dramatic improvements for my pets, myself, and my patients. Join me each week as I merge natural health for people and pets by focusing on the root cause of disease and applying raw, real remedies that you can use to improve overall wellness for every member of your family, including the furry ones. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Raw Remedies podcast, where we discuss natural health for both people and pets. Today, I have the brilliant Dr. Emily Stein with me to discuss the importance of dental health and the oral microbiome. She is the founder of both Teef Health, which is for pets, and then Primal Health, which is for people. And her research and products are helping to revolutionize the way we approach health, starting with the beginning of the digestive tract, which is the mouth. So welcome, Dr. Emily. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So tell us, we chatted a little bit beforehand, but some people might know I was raised by my grandparents. I'm very close to them still to this day. And when I first was researching your products, and actually the first time I ever heard you speak was on another podcast, and you talked about your grandmother and how she really kind of sparked this journey in you, and that really resonated with me. Would you share that with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So my grandmother, her name was Cornelia. She was born early 1900s. Her mom actually had dentures when she was like in her 20s. My grandmother didn't go to college, but she was whip smart, and she when I went to grad school at Berkeley, so I grew up in the Midwest. She lived all her life in Wisconsin, and I graduated from undergrad at University of Iowa in microbiology, immunology, because I love microbes. I just fell in love with microbes. And so I pursued a PhD at Berkeley on the West Coast, and we would literally play online Scrabble every day. And she would beat me, hands down, no matter what grad student help I got or what professor's help I got or postdocs.
Amazing.
Like, she would beat us all. And then one day she didn't play her turn, and then my mom called me later that day when I was at Stanford in rheumatology, and turned out she had a stroke. And so I flew, I got the first flight, which was super expensive, back to Wisconsin, and come to find out, my uncle took her to the dentist the day before. She had a tooth extracted because she had periodontal disease, and she had a stroke. And now, from retrospective analysis of thousands, I'm talking tens of thousands, like 30,000 in one study and 40,000 in another study of Medicare and Medicaid claims, we now know there is a link, foundational link, between a tooth extraction or a dental implant placement and a heart attack or a stroke. And that's a 50% increased risk, and that lasts for 4 weeks after the procedure. It doesn't normalize to baseline until 6 months after that. Oh. Yeah. And so my grandma was a statistic, and I didn't know that at the time. I just wanted to save grandma, so I literally biohacked her. I grabbed her microbiome on a swab, flew it back to my apartment in Redwood City. I turned my kitchen into a BSL-2 lab, and I literally did high throughput screening to find naturally safe ingredients that wouldn't interfere with her Coumadin, but would block her bad bacteria in her mouth from causing any more problems. And so that's 13 years later, now here we are, multiple clinical studies, 7 countries, and even successful trial up in the International Space Station. I mean, if my grandmother were still alive today, she would, I don't even know what she would think. It'd be really cool to see what she would think,
That's so amazing. And I think that so many of us, we're kind of almost reborn into the more you know, it's not always a holistic space for everyone, but almost like functional, like functional medicine space for so many people, both in the human realm and in the pet realm, because something happens. Something happens to someone we love, whether it's a family member or our furry family members. And it was the same for me. I've done conventional medicine for a decade, and it was my dogs and my cats who were chronically ill that made me look at them and realize, well, all the conventional stuff that my vet's doing is not helping at all.
No.
They continue in this chronic state. They, suffer at times from these chronic conditions. What's not adding up here? And it wasn't until I kind of surfed into the internet and found fresh feeding and then discounted that for a little while and then kept looking and kept getting that same answer, and then finally went, okay, maybe there is something to it. And I once I started, I never looked back. So it's heartbreaking that she had to suffer something that probably tremendously changed her life, but yeah. I'm so glad that you were able to kind of take that spark and start almost a wildfire with it, but a beneficial fire, I guess I would call it. But
yeah, because most of dental problems are entirely preventable, but they're just like in medicine. There's nothing preventative except for a dental hygienist, but they don't have a voice and they don't have purchasing power.
Yeah.
So
let's, before we talk about the animal aspect, because I definitely want to get into the Teef Health, let's really kind of dig into the people side of things. So I recently saw a biologic dentist for the first time ever, and I'm a person who had braces as a teenager and then Invisalign as an adult, and I had really bad demineralization of my teeth, actually, because I personally think there's two reasons for that. First is I was on Depo shots for a really long time when I was younger.
Yep.
So longer than the recommended amount of time, and no one ever said anything to me. So I think that was part of the problem, because it demineralizes your teeth. The other part of the problem is my whole life I've had issues with canker sores, which some people might know those as aphthous ulcers. And so it's just like an ulcer that you could get like an ulcer in your stomach, you could get an ulcer in your small intestine, well, you can get one in your mouth. They're painful, they suck. There's nothing you can take for them, there's no medicine. You can't take an antiviral that doesn't really do anything.
No.
And so years and years ago, a dentist prescribed me a steroid mouth rinse, and I never thought about the implications of it, but I used that at least a few times a month for probably 10 years. And the gum recession for my teeth and the sensitivity in the last few years had gotten to the point where I couldn't drink a cold liquid. I couldn't eat ice cream. It was terrible, and nobody could help me with anything. Going to the dentist, I dreaded it. Yep. And,
trauma. There's dental trauma. That's a real thing.
Yep. It's terrible. But then I discovered some of your products, and I personally think that using them is what allowed me to finally overcome my sugar addiction. And I'm not ashamed to say that for many, many years, I have been addicted to sugar. I love sweets. I love chocolate and candy and sugar in my tea. And I used to put International Delights creamer in my coffee. And if it wasn't sweet, it didn't taste good, and all the things. And I brushed my teeth 4 or 5 times a day sometimes, just because I know that sugar is bad for you. And I didn't want it to contribute to my dental issues, not even realizing that the actual microbiome of my mouth is what was contributing to me constantly craving sugar. It's crazy.
Yeah,
no one had ever explained it to me.
Folks don't get that, but microbes have always lived in humans since the beginning of man. They have always lived in humans. We're finding them buried in the middle of meteors and asteroids that land on Earth, right? So they might be the real primordial thing that we were all derived from. Who knows? But it really begs the question, are you more microbial than you are human? And all of the metadata on genome sequencing and metabolomics now and all this stuff really suggests that, we probably are more microbial than we are human. And they probably do control a lot of our urges and a lot of our desires. And I mean, even aggressive driving behavior is still linked to microbes. Like it's crazy.
Well, maybe I really need to get my microbiota checked then. But I mean, even if you just look at the sheer volume and the number,
oh yeah,
the microbes in and on our body outnumber our cells as people 100 to 1.
Yeah,
I mean,
insane.
There's trillions.
It's insane.
So,
and we're always taught that the mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells. That is true, but the number of bacteria just from the mouth to the anus outnumber the number of mitochondria in our body by 10 to 1. And then factor that they are on their own circadian rhythms, factor that they are constantly eating first. Our mitochondria don't eat first, right? Our mitochondria only eat when we absorb the nutrition that the microbes in our GI tract digest and secrete. So it's just like, it's like mind-boggling, the potential importance that they may have in dictating behavior, mood, even they're now linked to cessation. So when you're no longer hungry, right? And the fact that we've been like hurting them through antibiotics when we really might not have needed antibiotics, when we were prescribed antibiotics, that question has definitely come up in medicine and medical research, and it's a very valid question. Like in rheumatology, we know that your average autoimmune disease patient has had at least 3 to 4 courses of major antibiotics in their childhood. And then either a surgery or an injury triggered their first flare. And so their microbiome changed, right? So your immune system tolerizes itself against your own self, including your own microbes. And so when you change your microbes through antibiotics, antiseptics, stuff like that, you create new things that your immune system sees as foreign and reacts against, right? And so it's, I think we've caused ourselves a lot of problems.
Yep.
That we could have just taken
agree.
care of with diet and prevention and things like that.
Yep. And the preventative healthcare in America is just becoming such a joke. And I say that as a person who works in healthcare in America, but almost my whole career has been spent in the emergency department. And the amount of people who use it as a primary care office because they either actually can't afford insurance.
Yes.
If their job doesn't cover it for them, they can't afford it, and so they can't go see a primary doctor, so they just come to the ER.
Yes.
Or their doctor is too overwhelmed and they're scheduled out for months.
Yes.
Or, truth be told, they're just lazy and they would rather just come in and do it. You know what I mean? You get the people who abuse it. They do exist, right? Some people need it. Some people abuse it. But it's a system that just really kind of perpetuates itself. And a lot of the problem is that all of the things that are supposed to keep us out of the hospital are disappearing. So, fresh, unprocessed food, food that's not covered in chemicals, animals that aren't treated with multiple rounds of antibiotics before you...
Or hormones.
Consume them, or the hormones, it's so hard, and it just starts... it starts literally from the ground that you walk on and the soil that you plant your plants in. It's just... it's so frustrating. And that's why
the irrigation water is just so
contaminated.
Runoff.
Yep, it's tough. Yep. But it is good to know that we can, it's not what you have is what you get, right? It's not the be all end all. That's my cat trying to jump on my computer, so sorry.
That's all good. It's like, the papers, you want to set up decoy papers, right? And pretend to look at them so that they sit on them.
Yeah, you're right. I should do that for next time. I'm going to remember that right next to me for him. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so like if you do have to take a course of antibiotics, right? Or let's say you did like me, you spent many years eating crappy food and, all of the things that you can just grab off the shelf and munch on while you're talking or driving or sitting at your desk at work. You can reset that and you can improve that. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your Protectin. So this is the little individual sachet. And this is,
Yep.
you have it in the water there too. And so what I think this really, that's two of my cats now. It's not just one, now it's two. What I think this really did for me is many times in my life I have tried to kick the sugar cravings. And inevitably, 1 week out of the month would come around and I would give in and I would go get my ice cream. And then that ice cream would just spiral me again. I could never, ever make it more than 3 weeks. I just could not. This time, 6 months ago, when I sat down and said, I feel like crap all the time. I'm 33. I wake up with a sore neck. Sometimes I check my blind spot and my neck hurts for days. My hip is flaring up from where I had a labral tear when I was back in high school. Something has to change. I cannot be young and thin, right? Relatively, you would look at me and think that I'm healthy.
Yeah.
But metabolically, I'm just inflamed. And so I was like, all right, that's it. I got this. Started using it right away. And week 3 came around and I did not have the urge for that ice cream. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's like cookies or snacks at the nurse's station, I might gaze over at them and go, man, those look like they probably taste really good. But then I go back to my office and I grab my little cup of sauerkraut. So tell me, how does this work exactly? How did this trick my microbes into eating something healthier?
Yeah. So literally did high throughput screening of naturally safe ingredients that my grandmother could take, right? And I literally biohacked her, so I took her oral microbes that were causing problems. And I cultured them up, and then I did high throughput screening on all ingredients that the microbes would, to figure out like what would stop them from causing problems. And that's what Protectin is. And Faucidant is the first generation of that. And it's literally, we figured it out like about 5 years ago. It's literally putting the microbes on a keto diet.
I love that.
So it's blocking them from eating carbohydrates. And it's telling them to eat the amino acids in your saliva instead. And so by doing that, you're shifting who lives in the mouth. And then because humans swallow about 3 billion oral microbes every day that make it through the GI tract and influence downstream gut microbiota, we're shifting downstream too. So we've got really cool data on gut. We've got really amazing data in women's health, genital urinary. So it's like way more systemic than we originally thought.
Wow.
Yeah. So by putting the microbes on this keto diet through Protectin, they're ignoring all the sugar you take. That then puts nutrient pressure on the ecosystem in your mouth. And so the guys that crave that sugar, that need it to survive, are not able to hang on because they're starved. Because we're literally plugging up their ability to take in any sugars. And then we're feeding the good guys that can eat all sorts of diets. So a lot of they're called commensal microbes that are we're born with, that tend to be really, really good. They can eat a varied diet. And so we're feeding them, we're asking them instead to eat protein. And they're able to do that. They don't grow as fast, but they can hang in there and they can do it. And then they naturally wind up outcompeting these sugar-loving organisms that tell you to eat the sugar. And so by 6 months, your sugar cravings go way down. You've completely changed your oral and gut microbiome and vaginal microbiome. And it's just really interesting. Really interesting.
So curious. So how does, I can understand from a downstream effect, the mouth is going to be directly connected to the GI tract. How does that factor into the GU tract then?
Yeah. Okay. So there have been now 5 really seminal studies done in pregnant mammals where they gave pregnant mammals different oral bacteria that they labeled. And come to find out, you can IV inject through the blood system E. coli it gets cleared by the liver. It doesn't wind up in the coating the fetus in the placenta. You can inject intrauterинely or intravaginally, but it gets stopped by the plug that pregnant females have that is in the cervix. It's the safety barrier. Those microbes don't get in there, but you feed and drip in E. coli in the mouth. Boom, coats the fetus and makes it all the way into the placenta. It might be going through the vagus nervous system. We don't know, but they can definitely penetrate the tissue. And a lot of these microbes that are really harmful can spread cell to cell like listeria in the gingiva and go through into the nervous system and circulatory system.
And I don't think people realize the impact that oral health has on your body. I mean, I've seen people have strokes. I've seen people have, venous sinus thrombosis. So one of the things that I was taught as soon as I became a provider in the ED was, if somebody comes in with a dental abscess and they're complaining of an awful headache, you better rule them out for venous sinus thrombus, or you're going to be in big trouble if you miss that.
Big trouble.
So, I mean, it's crazy.
But
I mean,
dentists don't know this. Dentists don't know this.
That's craziness to me, and especially because for many years they were recommending antibiotics for people that had like prosthetics or pacemakers or mechanical heart valves. They would recommend that they get oral antibiotics prior to any.
Yep. Sorry, my dog.
Prior to any procedures.
It's always a Chewy commercial that my dog reacts to.
All right, you have dogs barking. I have cats fighting. It's okay. This is a podcast for pets and people. So.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, so I know that now the guidelines are starting to shift. They're thinking about maybe changing them, but it's really the biologic dentists that are leading that charge.
They really are.
I think change.
Yeah, well, there sadly aren't as many biological dentists as there need to be. But we need to rethink how we prep patients for procedures. We need to rethink how we eat. We need to rethink how we think about prevention. I think if you have to do a treatment, you fail.
Yeah.
And we're not built we're built to put Band-Aids on Band-Aids, and then you wind up a patient has 20 different meds, right? And they all interact and cause problems, and you're dealing with side effects. And
I like to say it's like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. It's going to just keep oozing, and eventually it's just going to, you can't hold back.
It's going to fester. Yeah. And so my grandmother, the one who had the stroke, she always would tell me everything in moderation, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And
I love that.
Those two things really, have been emblazoned on my brain.
That's a great mantra. I like that a lot. So all right. So tell me a little bit. I have
Teef.
Your Teef product is. Oh, you want to give that a sniff? You know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So for the kitties, this is actually the canine one.
Yep.
This is 42, right? Yeah, this is 42.
Yep. That's what's in my water. Cause
nice.
I drink
and I know why you named them this way, but you should definitely tell people why they have the numbers after the name. But how did what you first did for people eventually make its way into pets? Was it just natural to kind of want to encompass both, or was it your own dog or cat who inspired that?
Yeah. So after Grandma Kamala, Cornelia Kamala was her name, and I biohacked her and got the lozenges built and water additive later because she couldn't suck on things later in life. I rescued a dog. Her name was Molly originally, but she was not a Molly, so we named her Tinsley. And I got her from the Humane Society up in Central Washington, and I literally they said she needed some dental work, and I'm like, oh, I got dental work. Okay, I can, I got cleanings and stuff. And so I cashed in my miles and flew up there and rented a car, got her, and you could smell her before you saw her. I mean, she was a 10-year-old, they estimated, Cocker Spaniel. She was just bred her whole life, stuck in a cage. Her hind legs were so paltry. She was very abused. At night, she would freak out, like, some bad stuff happened to her at night, I think. Anyway, drove her down in a rental car, but I had to roll all the windows down because that breath, it smelled like death. And she wasn't doing well, probably from Northern California to the Bay Area. And so just went right to the emergency vet when we got there, and she had to have 21 teeth extracted, and her body pumped full of tons of antibiotics to save her life because her dental disease went septic. And it's just, she's not alone. Like a lot of dogs that are neglected and cats wind up in the shelter because it's too expensive to take care of their teeth. And so now we have a mission where we give back and we try and rehab older pets so that they can get adopted by focusing on the mouth and the oral hygiene of these animals, because the number one reason you ask these people why they don't adopt older pets is because of the cost associated with oral care. And so, regardless, Tinsley was patient number 2 that I hacked, and it turned out that it's actually only a tiny shift in the percentages of the ingredients that work for dogs. It's the same problem. So many of the kibbles on the market are just chock full of carbohydrates. Even now, these fresh foods that are coming in the market have carbohydrates, and cats should not be eating carbohydrates. Right?
Yes.
They're not built for that. They were not evolved for that. Their GI tract is very different than dogs. Dogs shouldn't even be eating a lot of carbohydrates. Mm-hmm. And so dental disease is pervasive. Like by the age of 3, 80% of dogs and about 90% of cats can have some sign of gum disease. And everybody looks at the teeth, but it's not the teeth. It's really the gums where the problem is.
Yeah, that's so tough. And I think that it's not spoken about in terms of the importance of prevention when you go to your conventional veterinarian. I think they'll mention, almost like offhandedly, you should consider brushing your dog's teeth. Here's this toothpaste that we sell that has peanut butter flavor and all kinds of crappy ingredients in it, right? And here's this toothbrush, and you can use it for all of your animals. It's totally fine, which it's completely inappropriate for the shape and size of a cat's mouth and causes them extreme pain if you try to use an inappropriate toothbrush for a cat.
And brushing, as a microbiologist, brushing just smears microbes around. Yeah. They reattach in 2 minutes. You didn't change the problem. And you probably caused more problems because the toothpaste probably has chlorhexidine or stuff that really enriches for these gram negatives that are anaerobic that really cause gum disease.
Okay, explain that to me. I have not heard that before. And do you know, every patient that we have that's intubated gets a chlorhexidine rinse once a day?
I know. Yep. So in our research, so we've got over 8,000 swabs from people, pets, you name it, even horses. And horses get a lot of they get a big bolus of chlorhexidine from equine dentists. But what we're finding is that chlorhexidine enriches for multi-drug resistant gram negatives. Now, a lot of the gram negatives are anaerobic that are associated highly with gum disease. And so by giving chlorhexidine, you're actually enriching the bad guys and you're eliminating the beneficial microbes that are in the mouth to protect you because they're susceptible to chlorhexidine.
That's crazy. I can't believe that I, first of all, did not know that. And second of all, giant teaching institutions
It's
probably have
standard
access
of care.
to the data.
Chlorhexidine is standard of care.
Wow.
Because it gets rid of the tissue inflammation for a period of tiny bit of time. But that's because it killed the soft tissue and it sloughed off.
Wow.
But then, it didn't change the disease.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to I need to read that study and see if I can. That would be very interesting to have a discussion about that where I work. That would be very interesting. Probably have to push back.
There's going to be a ton of pushback because dogma is chlorhexidine is the best, right? And same with bleach. Guess what? We know.
Throw this bleach in your wound.
But we know, right? We know that bleach is only effective for a period of time because it oxidizes, or it's an oxidizing agent, and it like basically reduces over time into nothing. And in a true established biofilm, because we've done these studies, it takes over 40 minutes in the presence of 100% bleach solution to kill at 100% of a biofilm. Wow. That's, any ICU can't do that, right? Because of the toxicity to the mammalian tissue. And this is where I keep on coming from, like anything that is toxic enough to kill bacteria is going to hurt your own mammalian cells, which are way more fragile. Yep. And so cancer rates are going up. Inflammation goes up because we are hurting ourselves with these antiseptics.
And you see it in the hospitals, and then you see it at home, not with you do see it with the antiseptics at home because people are spraying all kinds of chemical crap to clean. I just usually use vinegar, essential oils.
Vinegar is great.
It doesn't smell quite as vinegary, but even beyond that, you already touched on this, but the food that we eat is what's causing the biggest problem, and these artificial flavorings and colors and just so much crap. And it's so hard for our pets because they're told, eat this one single thing every day forever, don't change it or they'll die. And that one single thing is a horrific thing. At least for people, we can try to make our best good choices by, going to the outside of the store instead of to the aisles in the middle, right? Going to the meat counter, going to the produce section, even going to like the pre-made food section, maybe where they might have up like a pre-made chicken with potatoes or something. It still will be better than going and grabbing something processed and shelf stable. But our pets can't make those same decisions, and they rely on us to make them for them. And unfortunately, over the last 80 years, we've made the most terrible decisions. And
when you look at like corporate America, right? How vets are taught nutrition, eight hours of curriculum, and they're taught by one of the biggest producers of food.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. I've written blogs about it, and I'm not afraid to say the word corruption because it's everywhere, right? Big kibble, big pharma, right? It goes up to the institutional levels. Pharmaceutical companies sponsor lunch and learns. They feed us food, and then they hand us little sample packets of their drugs, and they're like, give this to your patients. They're going to do great, as we chow down on Chipotle, which is baked in seed oils, by the way. But, it's the same. It's even worse for veterinary schools because they're literally sponsored by big kibble. They fund their schools. They open more schools. They get lectures on how to treat kidney disease because, somebody from Royal Canin is going to show up with a bag of kidney and kibble and say, this is what you do if your cat has kidney disease. It is very pervasive, and it's very frustrating. And I can speak from experience because I spent 10 years in medicine before something happened to my dog that made me say, this isn't working. And then it was almost like the curtain dropped, and in front of my eyes I saw everything that I was doing that was conventional, and it really almost felt like brainwashing, because I used to be the person that would make fun of people for wanting to use herbs and would make fun of people who said that gluten, is a problem. And by the way, since I cut gluten out of my diet and added sugar, I haven't had a canker sore. So tell me more about how I spent 10 years of my life getting a steroid mouth rinse when my dentist could have just told me to stop eating that,
Yeah.
We don't know how to get to the root of the problem. We're not doing root cause analysis. And then once we do that, we need to actually return to our roots, our plants, our microbes, to be able to naturally handle the problem and then allow that to continue. Not just a one-time, well, let's just wipe out all your microbes and see if that fixes something.
That doesn't work.
It has to be a lasting change.
Only if you want to die should you wipe out your microbes.
Yeah. Well, some days it feels like, no, just kidding. But,
no, but you're absolutely right. Like, there are when you think about our ancestors and our ancestors of ancestors, what did they survive on? Fermented beverages, fermented foods, smoked meats, barely, mainly foraging, right? And it was diverse and it was seasonal.
Yeah.
And same with wolves, and same with the cats, the big cats. We're doing a zoo study right now on snow leopards, orangutans, and gorillas with gingivitis and diarrheal disease, case controlled. So, and yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, the chow that they're giving zoo animals these days causing big problems too.
Oh, that breaks my heart. I already don't like to go to zoos because they make me really sad. But I try to not think. I usually comfort myself by thinking that at least they're probably getting a species-appropriate diet, and I'm sad to hear that that's probably not the case.
There's a lot of filler.
Oh, God, that breaks.
Carbohydrate filler. I know. Mine too.
So I love that you're doing studies in all different areas. To pull it back to our own home only, though.
Yeah.
So I have the protectin for myself. I have the Teef, which is also protectin for the dogs and the cats. What is the difference then between the 42, the 30, and then the one that's for dogs and cats? Because you have 3 different variations.
All pets.
So how would if they're looking for their pets specifically, how would they choose? And you're drinking the dog one yourself. So tell us why you're doing that.
This is 42. It's the closest to the human that you can get. Because dogs and humans are actually, the microbiomes are very similar these days, we found. And we exchange a lot of the microbes. So on average, every time your dog licks you, for instance, there's a transfer of over 1 million microbes per lick.
I have a theory about that, and I'm going to tell you when you're done.
Okay. And we've actually done household studies and shown that if a dog has dental disease, those dental microbes that are pathogens are spread amongst the household or the humans. So now we actually have dental offices selling teeth to clean up the pet's mouth at the same time that they're cleaning up their human household as well. Amazing. So it's pretty cool. But that's just so we call protectin 42, which is the dog, 42 because literally we're trying to keep all 42 teeth in the mouth of a dog for the lifetime. And 30 is a little bit different. It's 42 with an additional ingredient. We found that chlorella, which is a algae, has a cell wall full of chitin. And chitin is like one of the most bioavailable molecules on Earth. But it's actually acting like a molecular sponge. And it is sopping up a lot of the neurotoxins and the cytotoxins, cellular toxins that the fungus are secreting in cats' mouths. So we're finding that a lot of cats have a ton of fungus in their mouths. I mean, dogs have a lot, humans have a lot, but cats have even more. And it's because they don't drink as much. And it's a warm environment, and it's just like this great incubator for fungus, slow-growing fungus, right? And so that can cause some big problems, we're finding. And so we have that extra ingredient in Protectin 30 to keep all 30 teeth in the mouth of cats for their lifetime, because we know in epidemiologic studies that if you lose a tooth, whether you're a human or a dog or a cat, your lifespan shortens. So our goal is to keep all teeth in mouths for a lifetime, because you're going to be healthier.
Yeah. I love that. So 42 for the dogs and 30 for the cats. I think that's so cute.
And then All Pets is we came up with All Pets because there's a subset, and this is counter, but it's marketing. So we removed the sodium bicarbonate from 42 because some pet parents are afraid of a little bit of sodium, even though it's less than 2%, for their animals with kidney problems. But the thing is, the bicarbonate is actually shown clinically to help with kidney problems. So I don't know how to counter that narrative because it's pervasive. So
yep, we literally give it to our dialysis patients. They get sodium bicarb 3 times a day.
Thank you.
it binds, but okay.
Yep.
So you removed it from the one that they both get?
All Pets. Yeah, that's what we call All Pets. But it's K, 42K.
Does that one have chlorella?
No.
It does not. Okay.
Nope,
So my
30
cats,
has chlorella.
Only 30 has chlorella. So my cats are goofballs, and they do drink water, but they will only drink out of the dog's bowl. And don't know why. They have like 3 pristine, beautiful bowls. I won't use those water fountains because they're disgusting. Disgusting.
The filters,
they're filthy.
Throw the filters away. Always.
Yeah, so they just have like standing bowls, and I refresh them a few times a day. But the dogs, they don't drink much because they're raw fed. So they just have one slightly large-sized bowl. It gets filled up once a day. They never even finish the entire bowl. And it's raised on a pedestal. And it's so cute. The cats will jump up on the rim and perch and drink out of it. It's so cute. So I think that the next time when I run out of this one, I'm going to grab the Protect in 30 then, so that I can have the benefits of the...
especially we have vets reporting to us that it's really helpful for stomatitis cases.
Yeah. I have had to have all 3 of my cats have an anesthetic dental. So my Goose, who's the one that was just on my lap, he's 15. And he did, in fact, have to have 3 teeth removed because of resorption. And the other 2 just got cleanings and didn't need anything removed. And, again, I never once brushed my cat's teeth when they were younger. I didn't even know that, I could, to be honest. My vet never told me. I don't know. I never thought of it. I like to keep my fingers, so I never tried.
Right.
And then I did try once I realized that they had horrible breath and their gums were all red, and I was like, oh no, something's wrong. And of course, they were kibble fed for years, and now that they're on raw food, it's much better, and they've had their cleaning, so it's much better. But I can still see it starting to come back, and I don't want to put them through anesthesia every year. It would be great to not have to do that. It comes with a risk in and of itself. As you mentioned, dental cleanings come with an increased risk in and of themselves, even if you don't have an extraction. So I really, and I like the idea of being able to use this for them as true prevention, in addition to, the adjunct of actually feeding species appropriate food. And then I have things like silver vine sticks that they'll play with and chew on and stuff like that. They won't eat bones, unfortunately. They're little princesses.
That's okay.
But...
Well, guess what we're coming out with this in 2025?
Oh God,
we have we have lickable treats, and then so those are coming out. Actually, those are out now, but salmon and liver, mainly targeting dog. And then we're coming out with a mixture of silvervine and catnip mixed with P30. And the cats are actually licking it, which is the best part. They're not just, rolling in it. They're rolling on it, licking it. And so we're going to be doing lick pad work, because the tongue for cats is a big reservoir for microbes. And so by having the action of them licking it, amazing.
I love that. I'm so excited. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that, because I'll be wanting to try. Are you going to Super Zoo? Because, I'll be there, and if you have it there, I'm going to buy some.
Yeah. Oh, totally. We'll be at Super Zoo. Yep.
Oh my gosh. So if you have cats, and like most cats, they don't drink a lot of water anyways, but especially if you have raw fed cats like mine, they barely drink any water. What would you suggest pet parents do to get this product into them? I have a feeling it's going to be what I do, but what would you recommend?
It's putting it on their food then. Sometimes you
That's what
can
I do
sprinkle it on your hand and they'll lick it right out of your hand. Like my kittens, tuxedo kittens, they'll lick it right out of the hand. But yeah, they go after the dog dish.
Yeah. I mean, mine do drink a little bit out of there, so I'll switch it to the 30 so they get that chlorella benefit.
Yeah,
But
and your dog can have 30 too, by the way.
Exactly, yeah. But I just sprinkle it over the food, and then I give it like a quick mash, and then they have no idea it's in there. My cats are very suspicious, probably because they're older, and it took a very, very long time to get them onto raw food. It was really tough, and I almost threw in the towel a few times and was like, maybe canned is the best we can do. But we got there. It took a year. So now when I introduce things, it has to be with the utmost of caution because they will walk away and starve if I try and just throw something new. But this stuff, they have no idea. It's never been a problem with any of the proteins that I feed them. I sprinkle it in, I give it a smush. They have no idea it's there. I will say that the unflavored one, for people, I taste it a little.
It's the L-arginine. It's
earthy.
Got a fishy. No, it's the amino acid L-arginine. L-arginine, which is why the cats love it. It has it's made from a fermentation, a plant derived. So everything we do is plant derived, and it's enzymatically processed and it's made into the amino acid L-arginine from cellulose. And when they boil it off to purify it, it gets this weird fish smell. But that's just our L-arginine. Yeah. And so you can, if you add more than this, you can't taste. You can taste it, but
yeah. I mix mine with 20 ounces, and I mean, you have to.
Oh yeah, 20 ounces is fine.
But you could mix it with anything, right? So if I wanted to put it in my tea, probably the taste of my tea would cover it, right? I mean,
put it in bone broth. We have a lot of people cutting it with goat's milk.
Genius. Yeah. So anything with a little bit of flavor.
Yeah. But cats love it by itself.
Well, that's probably why I haven't had a problem adding it in. It's not that I'm hiding it; it's that they actually love it.
Yeah, they actually do, which makes it really easy. Like my dog, he's been on Teef now since he was 3 months old, and I'll show you. He's 7.
Yeah.
And he still doesn't need a dental cleaning. Like, and he won't let me brush his teeth at all. I don't know if you can. They're just
they look his teeth are perfect, pristine, white gums. His gums are nice and pink. There's no inflammation.
No inflammation, but he's been eating also dehydrated raw for how long, Cashy? Probably since you were 6 months.
Oh my gosh,
I
he's
think.
So cute.
Right?
I see him looking at you with his eyes. He's like, what are you saying to me?
Yeah. But I mean, that's just the power of a diverse diet that is responsible with low grain and low carbs and there you go, your pup.
Yep, probably someone's at the door for delivery.
But my point is like I have literally been to the dentist, and I just went a couple months ago, and again I hop in the chair, they take a look at me, I don't even need cleaning, and I'm out. So it's like
I hope that's me one day.
If you eat a diverse diet, and if your oral microbes are on keto, do you really need a lot of dental? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I've made some big changes for me, and we'll see if I get there. But
I mean, the fact that you're not craving sugars is pretty cool.
It's huge. It feels very liberating, which almost feels silly to say, like, it feels so great that I don't want to eat a package of Oreos. Like, it's hard to describe to somebody how nice it feels to not feel like you have to depend, like you're going to be sad. Like, if you don't get that thing, you'll be depressed. That's how I used to feel if I didn't, like, I had fear of missing out on the cookie. And I don't have that anymore, and it's very freeing. So
Yeah,
So,
I don't crave sweet things anymore at all. In fact, they're
beautiful.
a big turnoff.
It's beautiful. And I will say, though, my entire life I've hated dark chocolate. Too bitter. Wasn't worth it. Now I love it. So
Well,
I
the
will allow
alkaloids.
myself
Oh,
a square, like,
Yeah.
or two, but now I used to hate that, and now I think my bitter receptors were allowed to kind of open up and be allowed to breathe a little bit, and there's studies that show that cacao is actually really good for you, and they have health benefits, so that's exciting for me. But
no, I mean, alkaloids are so important historically.
well, they've been around. I mean, long before we made chocolate out of it, people were using it for many other things. So,
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about, because the two products that we talked about are the two that I own, but you have a couple of other things. So you mentioned the powder for the cats, and that you have a treat line coming out, but you have lozenges, and that was the first thing you made. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and would those also help people who are having sugar cravings?
Yeah, absolutely. We that's what I built for my grandmother. So I put the active ingredients. So what you're taking in the water is just the active ingredients themselves. But for my grandmother, I put the active ingredients in a lozenge because she had rheumatoid arthritis and couldn't brush her own teeth. So I put them in a lozenge that she could suck on, that would dissolve in her mouth, and that would spur saliva production, because when you get older, saliva production goes down.
Yeah.
And her
people who have xerostomia are miserable.
Xerostomia, yeah. And if you're on antidepressants, your saliva production it tanks. And if you have Sjogren syndrome or anything else, tanks. So yeah, really, really bad. So these are built for people that can't brush their teeth, like my grandmother, or Parkinson's patients, ALS patients. But they can suck on it, and it does a great thing. It basically, same thing. You don't necessarily need to brush. You don't necessarily have to have a physical removal of plaque every day. What we're showing now in 13 years of clinicals is that by changing the microbes' diet, you change what the plaque looks like, and the tartar doesn't build up as much, and the gum tissue is healthier, and it just completely reboots the mouth. And so those lozenges are on the market, and we have them both in my grandmother's original formula, which is called Fossident, and we also have Protectin, which is the water additive. And we've also now got toothpaste tablets, and we're going to be coming out with thin strips for dementia patients and things like that. And also end of life. Importantly, the water additive is also very compatible with thickening agent. We found that out in memory care. So,
so for people who need thickened diets to not choke, that's awesome.
To not choke, but they do need dental hygiene still, And so we're just focused on building products that help folks that can't help themselves in a lot of ways.
So amazing. It's so amazing and so admirable, because those are the things that don't make people a lot of money, and things that Big Pharma doesn't focus on, but the things that we desperately need.
Yeah, because if you're a caretaker, and let's just say you're a nurse in a intensive care unit, or you're an orderly or a nurse's aide in a dementia or memory care facility, you don't have time to brush teeth, right? But at least you can do something that aids in promoting dental hygiene. And that will, because what we know about the mouth is insanely connected to the rest of the body, and the mouth harbors so many pathogens that are linked to soft skin, or skin and soft tissue infection, and like UTI and all these things. And it's just by cleaning up the mouth, you can have a ton of systemic benefits.
So one more question I have about your lozenges, and this is an important one for me. I noticed that they come in 3 flavors, and I saw that the mint one has peppermint essential oil.
Yeah.
The other 2 just say orange flavor and lemon flavor. Can you tell me what the flavor is?
It's actually orange rind from organic oranges grown in California and lemon rind from organic lemons grown in California.
I love you so much.
But we're forced by the FDA to say flavor, even though it's not really.
Oh my
it's
gosh,
rind,
I'm
which
so
is
glad.
why it tastes like zesty and it's got like a little funk to it because that's the rind.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to try those then. So the only reason I didn't bought them is because it said flavor, and I am very staunchly against things that say natural flavor. So I'm so glad that it's just a natural.
You can blame the FDA for how we have to say stuff.
I have lots of things to say about them. Most of them not good.
But the lemon is my favorite.
I love lemons. I put lemon in everything. I have lemon in my water. I have lemon in my tea. And when I finish my drink, I take out the lemon and I eat the.
Yeah,
the flesh.
The pectin in citrus is. I mean, we have some IP, really good IP on citrus pectins and what they do to the microbiome and how they benefit the microbiome, and it's really cool. And that's why we intentionally put orange and lemon in. But a lot of people like mint, so whatever. But I
love citrus things, so I'll have to try.
The lemon.
I think that's going to be my New Year's gift to myself and my friend, because I have a friend who is starting a whole health reboot journey, and I talked to her a little bit about how I think it's really important to start with resetting the oral microbiome and help with those cravings. So I sent some to her too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, so I will leave you with one last question. If somebody was researching your company and they just wanted a place to start, be it for them or their pets, is there one product in particular that you would say this is the best one to start with?
Yeah, start with Teef for Protectin 42. Take it yourself. And it's all human grade. We've never done anything animal grade. And
it's just that people don't like to. Some people get weirded out by taking things that are marketed for pets. I take literally all of my pets' things. I take their CBD, I take their mushrooms, I take their Protectin, I take
that. That's the thing is if you can't eat what you're giving your pets, that's a problem.
Then you shouldn't be giving it, yes. And that reminds me, my theory. So I mentioned I saw this biologic dentist, and she wanted me to do my oral microbiome analysis.
Yeah.
And I did, and it came back with high levels of fusobacterium.
But that's a commensal.
Well, but they were very high. Like it said on there, like, from a range standpoint, and I meet with her in a couple of weeks to go over all of the results.
Yeah, and send me your results, because is it Animales or is it Fusobacterium nucleatum?
It was nucleatum.
Okay, that's the commensal.
Oh, okay. Well, then my theory is busted. I was going to say, I think it's because my dogs are always licking my face, and I know that dogs naturally have fusobacterium because it's found in the soil.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the different genomes.
Animales is the one that's linked to endometriosis, head and neck cancer, and colon.
Yeah. Oh, well, good. I'm glad I don't have that one.
No, but there is one test on the market that looks for that particular one. So
yeah.
And
it was
bio something.
Yeah, that was what I did. I can't remember.
Yeah, but we know we get rid of it. We now have a collaboration with Baylor School of Medicine because we can get rid of it in people's mouths. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
You guys are making the big moves.
Oh, we're going after any oral derived bug that causes big problems.
I love it so much. So amazing. So thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. I know that the holidays are nutty and we both were traveling, but I'm really glad that we got to connect. This was awesome.
Same.
And I can't wait to hopefully meet you in person
at
Super Zoo next year, because I will be there.
That's awesome.
And I will be interested.
Yeah, and I am so sorry you have to go to work tonight.
Oh, you know what? Then I'm off for a week, so.
Oh, there you go.
It'll be okay. Yeah. It'll be okay. We're gonna go up to our cabin, and we're gonna
nice
romp around in the woods in the snow, and then head home. So watch the ball drop from behind our eyelids, because we'll no doubt be asleep before midnight comes. So
yes, agreed.
Well, now my my kitty just slapped me in the face with the tail. I think it's time for me to let you go. So thank you again for being here. And just tell people really quick where they can find your products, maybe your website.
Yeah, you can go to primalhealthllc.com. And then you can click on human or pets.
Or pet. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Emily. It was amazing to chat with you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for listening. Please remember that you, yes, you, are the driving force that helps keep small businesses and platforms like mine running. So if you liked what you heard, please like, share, and most importantly, rate this podcast. It's the only way we can reach more people and spread the word about natural health. None of the conditions discussed or recommendations given are meant to replace the advice of your health provider. So if you have concerns about yourself or your pets, please confer with a human or animal health practitioner. Have a super fantastic day, and I'll see you next week.